Hi.
I'd say maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
Their screen as well. That way, if they have like logistical or like technical issues along the way, they could like share their stream.
Yeah, I have that set up.
Okay, sweet. Just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I think I'll just give you guys a brief introduction to the program now, and a little bit about me for here. All right, so hey everyone, I'm Carlos Vasquez, one of the officers for the newly formed CSUF ACM SIGGRAPH Club on campus, and I'll be teaching you guys, how to work with Maya from beginner to somewhat intermediate level, just enough for you guys to be able to start modeling something and maybe animate something as well. The plan for today is that hopefully we can reach all the way to animation today, and maybe a little bit of rendering if you want to get into that. So like, well, in the meantime, I gave you guys like a little bit of rundown what Maya's about. You can start opening up Maya because sometimes for some computers it might take a while for it to start up. At least for me, since my rig, I'm able to open it like 20 seconds. Some people I know it takes them like a couple of minutes to even like 7 minutes. So if the rig that you're working on right now, you can't, if it takes a while to open it up, you should go ahead and just start now while I give the introduction. All right, so yeah, my game plan for today. So we're gonna go over the interface, setting up a project, controls, how to navigate to the camera, move, scale, and rotate your objects in the scene, and as well as modeling using the modeling toolkit and different various types of actions and tools that you have available, as well as channel box and the layers editor and attribute editor as well. That's well, I'll teach you guys later on what each one of those does, and hopefully by then I'll teach you guys a bit about animating in Maya. It's a bit it's a bit more complicated than just like pencil and paper, of course, because instead of just instead of just drawing every single frame, the program essentially is going to be doing all the keyframes for you between two of your main keyframes and any other keyframes you add onto it, unless you were to just customize that specifically. And yeah, so at least for introduction for 3D animation classes, they're going to teach you guys, if you take that class or already taken it, you might already know, the Bouncy Ball, you know? Same goes for traditional animation. Bouncy Ball, it's a bit different to maneuver in Maya than it is just a pencil paper because, as I mentioned before, you're going to be using graphs. So you're going to have to figure out a bit of the timing on your own rather than just figuring out the spacing on its own, as you would when you typically draw the frames between each one. Like as I said before, the program is going to do most of the work for you. But again, the program doesn't know what you want. So I'll teach you guys a bit of tips I learned on the way, especially from our previous speaker, Benjamin Dye. I took his class and he gave me a few good pointers for teaching or for doing animation in Maya. And at the end, I'll give you like a little preview of what it's like rendering in Maya. So yeah, let's get started. So okay, I'll just go from the bare bones. So what is Maya? Maya is an industry standard 3D computer graphics application, and a bunch of companies going from Disney, Marvel, ILM, who works on Star Wars, visual effects companies, video game companies, they work on this program every single day. And the type of work that you'll encounter when working in Maya is creating models, character rigging, which essentially is where you create joints and a basic skeleton for character models to be able to animate them, kind of like a puppet. Animation, of course. Simulations, such as fluids, fire, explosions, hair, fur, colliding objects, and more. Some other programs are made specifically for that, like Houdini, but Maya also has its own tool set for that, including XGen, specifically for hair. And lighting, so that includes shading, materials using the node editor, rendering using the Arnold renderer, which is a type of renderer that it's a type of program that Maya uses to convert an image or sequence of images in your viewport and adds realistic lighting around it, and the program will just spit out an image or a sequence of images of how it would look like if you put lights around your objects and how it would look like realistically, all based on math essentially. And yeah, I already mentioned. I mentioned Arnold, but there are a couple of other renderers that are open to you if you're willing to investigate. One of the most popular ones is made by Pixar themselves, called Pixar's Renderman. That one is actually free for everyone to use non-commercially. And if you like to investigate more on that, feel free to do so. It's pretty simple to install in your current version of Maya, even though you're a student. You just need to renew your license every few months or so. But you are open to use that non-commercially. Another thing to note is that for 3D applications, kind of like regular math, you have to navigate in the 3D space. So y-axis, z-axis, x-axis, and for Maya, we'll be using the y-axis as the up axis. But some other programs, I think Unreal does it, but I'm not too sure. I have to check up on that. They use Z as the up axis. A bunch of programs tend to use that. You are able to change that, of course, in Maya. And another thing to know is that some people might not remember this, but make sure that you're actually working in Maya with a 3-button mouse at least, because without a 3-button mouse, you're going to be limited to the types of actions that Maya has to offer, such as control right click dragging with your mouse, control middle mouse, and a bunch of other actions. So if you're running, let's say, a Mac who only has the scroll wheel and the one button for left click, there is a way to configure that in your Mac settings, but I would still recommend just getting a regular mouse. Even if you're using a trackpad, it's going to be a lot harder to work with. So again, further emphasize this, just get a 3-button mouse. Okay, so let's get things started then. I'll open up Maya, and hopefully you guys should have Maya open by now. We'll get started from here. I'll teach you guys a bit of the interface. Okay, I got my program open. I'll just share my screen. Okay, there we go. Can everyone see it?
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, perfect. All right, let's get started. I also pulled up my own notes here based on the handbook that Maya has on their website. So you don't specifically need to know what each and every function does, just as long as you have like the general idea, then you should be good. So yeah, first things first. This here is the menu set. That will divide the types of menus available into categories. As you can see, you got modeling, rigging, animation, effects, and rendering, and you can customize them as well. These are what they're called, the menus. So that's file, edit, create, select, modify, display. So the first 7 of these will always be available to you. But let's say if I switch from modeling to animation, a couple of menus pop up now, specifically made for animation pipeline, such as setting keys and playback. Same thing for rigging. I got skeleton, skin. I'm not going to be teaching about any of this, since this is a crash course. I just want you guys get started with at least modeling something. So we'll be sticking with modeling today. Workspaces, again, just like how you can edit the types of menus that are available here, you can also edit the types of menus that are open in your program here, and that's where the workspace comes in. A couple workspaces are available to you based on the type of work you want to do, such as sculpting, UV editing, action. You don't need to worry about any of this, however, though. You can just stick to Maya Classic for now. Now, this is your shelf. Kind of like how if you use Microsoft Word, the shelf has a bunch of actions and tools available to you that are pretty much the most common that you'll encounter, such as when it comes to poly modeling, you have all of these polygons available to you that you can just click and import into your scene. I'll be teaching you guys about how to do it specifically from here. But animations, rendering, that's also in here. You can also access all of these in the menus up top here. So for poly modeling, that'll be under Create, and then Polygon Primitives. They're all in here. You can also access them using your Hotbox menu, which is where you hold space, and this menu pops up. Can you guys see it? It's like a bunch of buttons all over.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, cool. So so yeah, while I'm not clicking anything yet, I'm still holding space. You can just go to your menu that you want to select. So create, and just hold left click. I'm still holding left click and still looking for the option. So let's say I want to create a cube. Once you got that, let go of your left click and your space, and a square should pop up for you. Not for me yet because I have a setting configured specifically for my work. So I'll just put it as default just so I'm following along with you guys. So how it looks like right now when you create a square or a cube is that it'll show up like this, pretty small, at a scale of 1, 1, 1, 1, as you can see here on the scale of X, Y, and Z. Now, you can actually edit how big or how small you want your cubes to be when you are first creating it. That's where you go into the Create menu under Objects, Polygon Primitives to the right, and then all the way to the bottom, there is Interactive Creation. It's a checkbox. It's a checkbox option. When you have that on, you can select any of these objects now, and again, back to the cube. Now you can just drag on the grid to establish the base of the cube and the height. You can make it as big as you want. And yeah, all right. I forgot. So navigating around the viewport. So to move around the camera like this, you're gonna want to hold Alt and then left click and drag. So again, Alt, left click, and drag. That's to move around the camera. Alt, scroll wheel, zooms in. Alt, left click, also zooms in, but more refined. And Alt middle mouse button will pan around. This comes in handy. Have I lost anyone yet?
By any chance, do you know how to do it in Mac? I do know, but if you could just like kind of remind us in case someone's working out on Mac.
I think it's Command. I'm not.
I think it is. Yeah, it's Command.
I'm not too sure.
Oh wait, how to rotate the camera on a Mac?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be. Let's see. I'm using a Mac right now. That would be. Oh, but I'm using. Okay, wait. Is it Option and drag?
Option and drag. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Option and drag. Now let's say that you zoom out all the way outside of your scene, but you can barely see your cube all the way over here. You're wondering, oh man, I got lost. How do I get back to this? You can just select your cube by clicking and selecting, or you can marquee select like this. Press F on your keyboard, and it automatically frames your object in your viewport. So you can rotate it. The object will always stay in the middle unless you start to pan around, and that's when it starts to become off-centered. So the F function, that also works when you're viewing your objects in the outliner. And since we're talking about the outliner, let's go on to this. So when you're working on a 3D scene, sometimes you're going to, well, most of the time you're going to encounter a bunch of objects in your scene, and if you don't have it organized, it's gonna end up like this, all clustered, and you might end up losing the specific object that you want to work on. So if you happen to have the object in your scene here, and from far away, and you want to work on it, but you don't know where it is, if it's under a bunch of sub menus or subfolders here, you can just find it here in the outliner by moving your mouse to the outliner and pressing F. Right now I don't have anything here though, because well, it's right here. I think I should affect it more if I have them grouped up. It'll probably be a better example. There we go. So where is it now? You can barely see it. It's in this specific group, but I don't know how. I don't know where to find it specifically. So again, select the cube, go to your outliner, and then press F, and it'll show up right there. All right, so let's delete all of them. All these groups too. This way. Let's make another cube. Okay, so there's three main ways that you can move around your objects around your scene. You can move them using the pivot tool here, or the move tool, by clicking and dragging these arrows based on the axes. What the squares do is that they combine two arrows together, so I can drag this square, and it'll be dragging both on the y-axis and the x-axis here. Oh, and by the way, if you forget what axis you're facing, these arrows on this little coordinate plane will determine the world. Forgot what it's called. The world pivot, world coordinate. That will determine exactly where y, x, or z is at all times, no matter what. Because sometimes when you're working on an object and the pivot, which is what this little axis tool is called, will move around, and you can't. And if you forget what axis you're supposed to be on, just look back at the world axis here, at the bottom left corner of viewport. It'll always be there. Okay, now let's see. I got the camera. That's the move tool. Just move around your object up and down, left and right, side to side on the grid. So let's rotate it. Press E on your keyboard. That will turn on the rotate tool on your object. Just like with the axes, with the move tool, you can turn them based on the y-axis, z-axis, x-axis. You can specify them exactly how you want. A cool trick to know is that if you want to rotate your object based on increments of 15 degrees, hold J on your keyboard and then drag. Other programs like Unreal Engine have this on by default, but Maya, you have to turn it on manually at first, but you can switch your settings so that this can always be on at all times. To go back to your move tool, just press W on your keyboard. So W is the move tool, E is the rotate tool. So I'll just rotate it here. All right, let's say I want to make this bigger. Press R, and this is where the scale tool comes in. So the big difference between the move tool and the scale tool, as you can see, is that it switches the arrows to oh yes, hold on. Okay, yeah, the move tool. Just press W again. So the big difference between the move tool and the scale tool is that you can see it replaces the arrows with the with squares. So if I drag this, it will scale the cube in different axes. Same goes for these squares as well. Combines more than one axis, and just does it like that. So yeah, I've already shown move tool, press W, rotate tool, press E, and the scale tool, press R. And if you already notice on your left-hand side of your screen, you can also click those tools specifically here. If you double-click them, you'll find the tool settings for each tool. So I double-click on the move tool, and as you can see, all these settings are available to you. You don't need to know all of these specifically yet. Soft selection will come in handy later, once I teach you guys a little bit about that when we reach modeling. But if anything goes wrong with your move tool, you can always just double click here and then click reset tool. Same goes for all the other ones, like rotate, right here, reset tool, and scale tool, reset tool again. You can also, instead of just clicking and dragging on these axes or on the tool specifically here, if you look at your channel box on the right, you can see that there's numbers that are going up and down based on which attribute is being edited. So you can manually type them in. So I can just move this square to 0, 0, 0. I can scale it to 1 or to 2, 3, 4, and it does it as so. Or you can make sure you have the object clicked. You can click on the attribute, middle mouse click and drag, and it will do it as so. So you can do it from far away. You can just click and drag on the axis here. So you can also middle mouse and drag based on where the yellow arrow is clicked on. So if I'm on the Z-axis, it turns yellow. I could just middle mouse and drag that. Same for the X. Same for this. You can see that I think this is the Z-axis is yellow right now. I can just click J to move in increments as 15, and as you can see here on the rotate X, that it is actually moving in increments of 15 degrees. So all right, let's reset him. All right. So let's start modeling him a little bit. Hopefully I didn't lose anyone. Did I lose anyone yet? Oh, okay. So let's keep going. All good. All right, cool. Thanks, Nick. All right, so let's start modeling him. Right now, where you can see all the edges of your cube is in green. That means that you're viewing your cube in object mode. We need to change it to component mode if we are to start editing this cube and modeling on top of it. So when it comes to modeling in Maya, you're gonna want to use polygons like this in order to model. There are a different type of object that Maya has that are called NURBS, but these are obsolete at this point, and you can't really model with them. You can't really model with them anymore. You can see how it gets all weird now, just selecting each face. So when it comes to modeling, just use polygons now. They'll always be highlighted in orange. The only reason why NURBS curves are still here at this point is that they still provide a good function when it comes to creating curves in Maya. And for instance, when you're creating a skeleton, when you're making a character, you end up using NURBS curves to create what are called controllers, which are essentially the strings that are attached to the bones of your character. And as far as I know, that's pretty much one of the main functions that NURBS is still used for now. There's some people still may use NURBS for other functions, but for us, just worry about polygons here. Okay, so let's get started with modeling this guy then. Okay, so let's see if I remember this correctly. Okay, cool. So make sure you have your cube selected. Hold right click. And if you're on Mac, Maybe there's a way that you can hold right click in a way. I'm not sure. So when you hold right click, you get this other pop-up menu. I'm still holding right click, by the way. So vertex, edge, object mode, and face. These are going to be the main modes that you're going to be working on when you're modeling. Edge, vertex, and face, and vertex face. And multi as well. Those are what are called component modes. Let's start with vertex. Vertices, they're essentially the points on a polygon that are connected with two edges. They can be in a corner. They can be between each edge, and just like with the rotate tool, or you can't really see it much here, but just like with the move tool on the object, you can move each vertice here. So same goes for edges. Edges only show up when there's two or more vertices that are connected between them. So you can move them as well. At this point now, you can actually rotate them. So just rotate them about 2 axes here. And you can scale them too. They come in handy a lot when it comes to scaling. Just to keep things consistent and symmetrical. So instead of having to, let's say, instead of just having to, let's say, select each vertices manually, and then just like move them closer to the middle, you can just select the edge by itself and scale it like this. All right, thanks for coming, Alana. So yeah, you can move it here, and yeah, you can just scale it here. Okay. Let me just undo this real quick. Now let's select the face mode. Face mode here, you can select each face like this, and a face is essentially three or more edges connected around each other. So right now, there's 4 edges in each of these faces, which means that they're called quads. What you'll encounter sometimes is that polygons will either have a quad, tris, which is like triangles with 3 edges, or n-gons, which means that it's 5 or more edges in the face. You typically don't want n-gons at all, because it will ruin your object later on the pipeline, especially when it comes to creating UVs for your objects. So yeah, you typically don't want n-gons at all. The best type of face that you want to have in your objects are quads. So just think squares, rectangles, or even pentagon. I mean, not pentagons. No, that's an n-gon. Even trapezoids. As long as it has 4 edges, then you're all good. Dimensions will typically just run tris though at this point, but just worry about having your object be in quads at this point. Okay, so let's try and make something actually. So from here on out, I'm just going to be doing like a little modeling demo, and you guys hopefully can follow along. I'll go as slowly as I can here. So, well, actually, before I begin, we need to save this. We need to save the scene. So let me teach you guys that really quick. Now, in order to save a project in Maya, it's gonna take a bit more steps than simply just opening and seeing and saving a scene, because you can have as many scenes as you want in a project, but in order to start working on a project in Maya, you need to set it up first. So if I go into the File menu, under Project and Project Window, you can see here that I have this under my final project from a couple of semesters ago. And all of these folders are automatically created when you set up a new project. You can also create a new project from here by clicking on New and typing in the project. So I'll just call it New Project. And from here, just click on the folder icon and just find a good location to hide it. Or not hide it, but just place it. So I guess I'll just put it under... I'll just put it under here in the summer. So I'll just call it SIGGRAPH demo. Oh yeah, and make sure that you're typing everything, any spaces with underscores, because otherwise, I already experienced this before. Maya will not read your project if there are spaces in the name. So make sure that if you have any spaces, just use underscores, and avoid using any special characters like exclamation points, dots, or colons and such. Does an underscore? Yeah, it does not. So as you can see, so I'm typing in spaces, it's not working. Unfortunately, not. Okay, but let's see this work in action. So I'm creating a new project. I titled it. I changed the location to where I want it to be. All these folders, you don't have to manually type them in because it all automatically does it for you. And just click accept. And you're almost ready to start. First, before you start modeling, you need to set up the scene too. This is where you can actually start with either create a new scene, save scene as, which is what I'm going to do here. And I'm going to call it just demo. File types, I typically just save them in Maya binary. I think from what I heard is that Maya ASCII tend to create scene files that are much bigger. So I just like to keep it in my binary. That's what I was taught to do. So okay, as you can see on the top of my window here, demo.mb Autodesk Maya, I have all the way at the end that demo.mb was created. So that is the scene file that I'm working on now. So let's get started with the modeling process here. Okay, so if you go to the sidebar menu on the right, you will see a couple of options here. Channel box, layer editor, modeling toolkit, and attribute toolkit, or attribute editor. The attribute editor, I quickly run it down here. There's a bunch of tabs here that are open to you for adjusting your objects in the viewport. A bunch of these you don't really need to know yet. Renderman, that's probably not going to show up here for you since I have Renderman installed on my computer. But what will come in handy later on is if you want to be working with materials. It's the default material for when you create a polygon here will be Lambert, and you can change the type of material here as well as the color. So now making it brighter, transparency, bump it up. So like if you use Photoshop, you know transparency is ambient color. This isn't. All of this, if you take our Art 455. I think C or D. It's lighting and composition. You'll be learning about material creation here. But just for the time being, that's just for this. That's just what this does. You can just... Okay, I don't have any presets right now here, but don't. Okay, let's just get started with modeling here. So what I'm gonna need you guys to do is to go to the modeling toolkit on the right. So here's a couple of basic tools that are open to you when it comes to modeling. And remember when I taught you guys about holding right click and then going to the edge menu or edge mode, vertex mode, and face mode? Well, you can also go to those modes, component modes, by clicking here. So vertex, edge, face. I think that's UVs. Yeah, UV selection. Don't worry about that one yet. And object selection. So for the time being, let's just go with Vertex. Okay? So what I'm gonna want to do now is I want to make a couple of cuts here, and in order to cut in Maya, you're gonna want to use the multi-cut tool. So it's this little knife icon. You can also access that here under mesh tools, multi-cut. It's right there. Oh, and by the way, for almost every tool in Maya here, there's a little box on the right-hand side of each tool that's called the option box. You can edit the tool specifically, just like how you can edit the move tool by double-clicking on it. And that will come in handy for stuff like mirroring, where you need to specifically ask Maya if you want to mirror on the X, Y, or Z axis, because if you were to just click on the mirror right now, you have no idea what's going to happen next unless you have already done the action before. So, okay, let's go back. So multi-cut. So what I'm going to do right now is that I am going to hold Shift or hold Control Shift, and if you drag your mouse around by holding Control Shift, you can see that the little box that's being created is being constrained to specific increments of your box here. If I click here, I've already created a cut or a loop cut in the exact middle of the cube. I'm going to do it again right here just to show you. Right there. Okay, so now I made kind of like a little present here. We can keep going by just adding more loop cuts around it. You can also hold Shift, and if you hold Shift, you can see a little box shows up when you point it towards an edge. That will always try and point your multi-cut tool towards the middle of that edge when you click on the box or the black box. So when I do it right now, it's starting to create an edge. I could barely see. Let me edit this really quick. Might be a bit too bright. There we go. Okay, so back to this. So as you can see, there's like a little orange edge being created. So yeah, now I'm just gonna go down here. Also, if you want to let's say you're adding a cut to your cube and it starts to become off center like this, right? Even though you're off center like this, you can always move it towards the middle by holding Shift. And by moving it and holding Shift, you can also see that a bunch of tiny little squares pop up. And 80%, 70%, that means that it's going up in different increments of 10%. And but if I move it back here, just to show you an example. So I'm still holding Shift and click on the box. That will move the cut towards the middle now. If let's say you're working on an awkward polygon and you need to create a straight edge no matter what, that's where if you still haven't completed an edge loop like this, that's where you can hold Shift Control, and a green box with a dashed line behind it will be created. And Maya will do its best to create a 90 degree or like a perpendicular cut through the middle like this. So all these cuts here, they're automatically created because you only clicked on this edge right here. So let's keep going. Okay, Once that's done, just click enter, and you've automatically created another edge loop here. So now I press W, and now I want to select this entire edge loop specifically. Right now what I have selected here is just one edge, but now I want to select the entire edge loop that's going around the entire cube here. So make sure that you're in edge mode right now, just so that you don't click on the face on accident. Double click, and as you can see, you have the entire edge loop selected. Now what I can do is that by clicking on one of the axes here, just drag it closer to the edge. So yeah, you can click and drag around like this. I'm just gonna keep it to the edge like this, just so that I can show you guys what's gonna happen afterwards here. So now I'm gonna create another edge loop, but this time instead of just going around menu like this, I'm just gonna hold Control, and just click it specifically right here. Okay, so now I'm just gonna keep doing that for the rest of the edges. Like this. Have I lost anyone, by the way? Just make sure. If I'm losing you, just ask a question in the chat right here on Zoom. And if you're watching the live stream after this is done, you can always ping me or one of the officers on the SIGGRAPH Discord.
Just add officers on Discord and you'll get one of us.
Yeah. Okay, see if I'm missing anything else. Okay. So yeah, look at that. We got a cube here with a bunch of edge loops here. But if I click outside of the cube, doesn't seem like anything's happening right now. Well, something did happen, but we're not looking at it using the smoothing technique that I'll be teaching you guys right now. So if you press 3 on your keyboard right now, it will start to smooth out the entire cube. So as you can see, the edges, it looks like they're pretty smooth already, and that is because of the edge loops that I've created here. Watch what happens when I move it. As you can see, the corner, it's starting to crease more towards the inside. And if I just outright delete that edge, and this one as well, it's starting to look a bit janky now, huh? But if I press 1 again, it looks completely normal. That is the power of edge loops. So when you want to create an edge here, and you want to make sure that it's more refined, that's where you want to start creating edge loops around your polygon. So make sure you have edge mode turned on. Although for some reason it's not. I think I know why. I probably have a couple of n-gon somewhere, or non-perform. Oh, whatever. I'm just gonna undo. Just that I have those. Okay, so let's make sure I can do edge loop still. Okay, cool. So let's teach you guys a bit about extruding. So let's go to your face mode really quick, and let's say I want to create a little button here in the middle of your cube. All right, let's make this cube kind of like a button that you press. So thanks to this little cross section pattern that you created here, we have a perfect cube, or a perfect square in the middle of the top of our cube here. So let's see, I'm going to select the face and then shift select the rest of them. So there's two ways that you can do this. You can hold shift, drag the axis, and you can see the word extrude is automatically shown up. And you create a little button here now. Same thing happens when you select any other edge. So now I'm going to extrude all of these other faces downwards. But instead of just holding shift and then pointing down, I'm going to control E, and it will turn on the poly extrude face tool. So you can edit each of these attributes, and you can just check which each one does. So thickness will determine just how far you want the action to go, or how far you want the face to go, up or down. Offset, as you can see, that will offset the face inwards or outwards. And divisions will add more divisions around your face, which so what happens if I just as you can see here, if I click on offset here, make it more towards the middle, now it kind of looks like those chocolate patterns that like Hershey's chocolates have, I suppose. If I keep adding more divisions, it's just going to add more edge loops around, which means that the edges around the faces will be more refined. And let's keep it like that. Oh yes, to answer your question, yes, I mean you're talking about using the one or two number buttons or keys on our keyboard.
Yeah, like when you like switch to just like the normal polygon you see and then the soft version. I always was personally confused about that.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay.
I've heard philosophies of like using beveling instead of the soft, like two shortcuts, so that's why I'm curious.
Yeah, so when you press 3 on your keyboard, well, it makes a sphere with a cube. What we're doing right now is something called the Catmull. It's on the tip of my tongue, but it's like a sort of process that Maya will automatically turn your simple low poly polygon into a smooth enough preview of a high poly polygon here. It saves a lot of resources because when it comes to editing modeling in with different objects that become, let's say, more complicated, it takes up a lot of resources for your computer to be able to render that out. And what I mean by render, I mean just like displaying it on your computer, even when there's no like complicated lighting around. So you always want to model with one mode on, which I have it on right now. And when you are ready to preview what your model will look like when it's smoothed out, you can just press 3. Pressing 2 will display a lattice around your around the preview of your smoothed out polygon. This will come in handy. Mm. So this will come in handy if you want to like move around the vertices here. So the vertices that you'll be selecting are the ones on the lattice. So as you can see here, if I remove the vertices on the original polygon here, it will also move the preview here. Because when I select the vertices on the preview, it's not actually selecting them on the ball. It's selecting them on the lattice, which is this invisible square or invisible cube that I just created.
Oh, so it's it's basically almost a deformer, a preview deformer, rather than actually creating a lattice and doing all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Because essentially you're still editing the cube, but you're just looking at the cube as a preview of what it would look like if it's smoothed out. So
I should really do this instead of like using the smooth tool and then just Control D when I didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm that person.
Another function that you guys should know is if you press 4 on your keyboard, that will turn on your wireframe, so you can see through your model just to make sure everything is smoothed out, everything is looking good. Pressing 5 will turn on shaded display once again, so just turn it back to normal. Pressing 6 will turn on shaded with display with texture maps, which means that if you have any pictures that or any materials or pictures that your object has like on its UVs, that will automatically display here. But pressing 4 or pressing 5 will just turn everything into their basic materials. So gray, like this, essentially. Pressing 7 will turn on all the lights in your scene and illuminate your objects using Maya's built-in software renderer or thing. Yeah, Maya software renderer. So not Arnold, just software, which means that it's going to be a very crude render of it, which is a good thing because that means you'll be able to preview the lighting in your scene without using a bunch of resources of like actually rendering it out. So I'm going to keep it a 5 right now. So let's just delete this one. Also, if you notice right now, when I don't have the object selected right now, you don't really see any edges or vertices. If you want to turn that on, that's where you need to go in the menu panels on your viewport. Which, by the way, it's wait, turn on annotations right now. Can you guys see my writing?
Yeah, we can see it. The
Okay.
red squiggles, right?
The red squiggles. Yeah, the red squiggles. Perfect. Okay, so this whole window right here, this is what's called the viewport. And apologies for my crude drawing here. I'm just drawing on a tablet. So what you're gonna need to look for is right here in the view, shading, lighting, show render, right there. So let's go back to this. So you're gonna want to go under shading, right here. You could turn on. I think it's. Wireframe unshaded. Here it is. Now, without selecting your object, you can see the wireframe. Okay, let's keep going with this actually. So, I've already shown you the basics of creating your scene, of adding edge loops around, and then extruding. So let's keep extruding a little bit. Let's say just want to select these faces. Control E. Just edit the thickness a little bit. Although maybe I should make them go outwards like this. I can offset it. Though instead of that, maybe I want to edit the thickness to 0, offset it a little bit to the inside, press Control E again, and then I can extrude them once more. Again, you can whatever you have highlighted in yellow, you can hold middle mouse button and drag, just like you can with the move tool and all the other tools. So you can see it's doing something janky. So let's see how this looks like in shaded view actually. Whoa! Kind of looks like those weird preschool Mega Bloks toys. So yeah, as you can see, it's I made this essentially in like 5 minutes. You guys can do a lot of work when it comes to poly modeling here in Maya in a couple of minutes by just having access to all these tools. Maybe I could show you a couple of more tools here. So let's say, let me create another cube here. Look at demo. So let's say I want to combine these two vertices together. I got two options. If I hold Shift, left click, merge vertices. I can merge vertices to the center. As you can see, they're merged towards the center of the distance between them. Or I can go to the target wheel tool, select the vertices I want. Just make sure you don't have any vertices selected right now. Hold the vertex you want to select, and then drag it to the corresponding vertex you want to combine it with, and then just let go, and it's all automatically moved out. This comes in handy when you have an object with like a bunch of edge loops like this, you know, and there's like a teeny tiny edge loops that you just don't, or there's like a bunch of vertices here that you just don't want to deal with anymore. You know, that's where the idea of like combining vertices and cleaning up your topology comes in. Oh yeah, that's another word I haven't mentioned yet, topology. So from my understanding, topology is essentially the idea of having kind of like a balanced, even amount of faces on your polygon, without using too much resources, but also maintaining an even amount of detail on your object here. That will come in handy when you're creating an object and you want to create texture maps for it, you know, UV maps, and you don't want any of those textures to be ruined when you start to work on your object. So that's where the idea of like pinching comes in. And sometimes when like think of it like a difference between Tomb Raider on the PS1, where she's all like blocky and triangular all around, and then Tomb Raider now with like Rise of the Tomb Raider. Between the first game and now, the topology has like gone up significantly, and so has the amount of the amount of faces, vertices, and edges on her model, making her look way more realistic, and have more variety with the types of assets that the developers want to add onto her now. In this case, though, right now it seems like I have way too many verses here. So let's try and clean this up. So right now I'm in vertex mode. I'm just gonna marquee select all of them. As you can see, all of my vertices are selected here at the same time. Let's see what happens if I just merge vertices. Edit the threshold maybe to like 0.2. That probably didn't do much because there's still no spaces here. But if there were like a bunch of vertices around here that you want to clean up, that's where that tool comes in. So like merge vertices, and then you can see here, it's doing something. It's cleaning it up. Now it's like a weird shape, but of course I can just.
I just wanted to mention, sometimes if you can't bevel things for some reason, or it's telling you have a broken polygon, half the times you can fix it with merging vertices, and it'll fix it up for you, because you could have like a missing vertex in space that's not being connected to an edge. Sorry, I just wanted to bring that up.
That's totally true. Thanks, Yas. You mentioned beveling. Actually, I haven't brought up beveling yet here. So beveling. Let's do that really quick here. I'm going to select just one edge. This one. Actually, let's select the whole thing. So it's not letting me, so I'm just going to, if I double click right now, it's only going to select one edge of the entire square. Shift select again. Shift double click again. Shift double click. Shift double click, and just to test it out, if I have everything selected, I'm just gonna move it up. See what I can do. So just undo. And I think bevel's Control B, right? Yeah, that's bevel. So Control B, as you can see, it did something. So let's move it around. Okay, cool. if you hold control while dragging, you can make your selection much more refined. Here, so I'm just gonna make it like this. You can add more segments as well. So let's add like maybe 3. Depth, so you can make it concave or convex, like this. So like that. And chamfer on and off. Oh yeah, chamfer. So like if you just want to add a bevel, or if you just want to add like a bunch of edge loops around an edge like this, instead of having to worry about the beveling function messing up your actual shape, you can just turn off or on the chamfer. All right. Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. So I'll just go over this really quick, and maybe do a little demo for the animation graph editor here, really quick. So all right, we got the beveling. We could learn about bridging. So let's say you can delete specific faces here if you wanted to, but let's say you want to connect more than one edge here together and create a face between them. You can select the edges you want and then click bridge, and it will create a bridge. You can add more divisions if you wanted to. Taper it. Those you're not really seeing much here. Twisted. This is more the bridge function is more useful when you have like another polygon here that is like separated from the main object here. So like if I have like another face over here, you can bevel that towards the face here. Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of other tools that you guys have access to, and if you want to learn more about them, you can always search up YouTube tutorials on them. There's like plenty of other resources here on YouTube, as well as Maya's very own online handbook too. Though I still recommend just looking up a tutorial on YouTube, since it's much more quicker than just having to read the whole handbook and figuring out specifically where the tool you want to learn about is. But as you can see here, you have options to fill hole, reduce the amount of faces here, retopologize, smooth it out, triangulate, and here flip, symmetrize, detach, connect, and more mesh tools here, such as target weld that's just the one that we already mentioned before. So yeah, that should like cover a bit of what it's like to like poly model something here in Maya. So just that I respect your guys' time, because I think we're reaching just 1 hour. So just keep things short. I'll just head over straight to what it's like to actually animate something here. So let's delete this stuff. So marquee select, hit delete. Okay, so let's make a ball. I'm gonna add a sphere here, and you know, just make it smooth. It doesn't matter. We're not gonna model it anyways. Okay, now I'm going to change my not my workspace, but my menu set to animation, and I'm going to go to Windows, Animation Editors, and Graph Editor. Okay. Right now it seems like I'm set to 120. Now I'm gonna want to go to channel box and make sure that I have my object selected here. So what's crazy about Maya is that the more I learned about it, the more I realized that essentially you can key and animate anything you want in this program. It's insane. Not only do you have access to being able to animate the ball being stretched up, you know, move left and right, or rotating, but you literally can also animate the ball changing its color. So if I go from the first frame here, set that key, that should work, and then go later on here, just make it brighter. Yeah, see, there you go, see? The ball just got brighter. I literally just animated that right as we speak. And if I go back to the graph editor, and I select it, it should show up here actually. It should show up here actually, the actual graph that I would see in order to see the color changing up and down. But that's okay, because you know, most of the time they're not going to be animating the ball changing colors. You're going to be animating the ball moving. So let's get towards that then. So let's set up the ball for animation. What I'd like to do is that once I have the ball here, I will go down to the timeline and adjust it just so that I have enough frames to work with. So right now I'm on frame 1, and frame 101. I can adjust that. So the number to the left here, that's the minimum amount of frames, or the first frame that your animation will render out in. This second number is connected to the slider here. You can adjust how big, or like how many frames you want to see at the same time. Kind of like how in Premiere Pro you can specifically adjust how long you want to see the clips in right now. Same goes for this number. This will edit the maximum in the slider. So again, this will edit the minimum. You can see how it's moving here. This number will edit the maximum amount of frames that your entire animation will render out in. You could adjust the frame rates that your animation is rendered out in. Right now I have it at 24 because that's the standard. You can also go up to, holy moly, 48,000 or 24 frames, 2 frames per second. All these other frames are specifically made for like simulations. Like if you want to be able to like render out a simulation super quick, that will normally take out hundreds of minutes or hours or something. You can edit the frames per second here, but just keep at 24 because it's standard to be able to animate in 24 frames per second, just like in traditional animation. Okay, so now let's go back to Channel Box Editor. We need to set up the ball and get it ready for animation. So what I'm going to do here is that I am just going to press S, and as you can see, a bunch of red boxes just showed up here under the Channel Box Editor. This means that all of these attributes are keyed to the current frame that I'm on right now, which is frame 1. If I move to the side, they turn pink, which means that there is no animation being done right now, and there's no keys, like main keys, that are being created right now. But oh yeah, another key tip is make sure that you have this toggled on, auto keyframe. This will allow you to be able to go to any frame you want and adjust the attribute that you want to edit. In this case, just going to move to the right, and it automatically creates a keyframe for Translate Z because that's what I changed, right? That way you don't have to, with this on, that way you don't have to manually like select the attribute and then click on key selected in order for it to be keyed out. Instead, it'll automatically be created. While I'm talking right now, I have this on my other window. It's if I go zoom out right here, there's a bit of a graph going on right now with this attribute, which is Translate Z. If I move it up, if I move this key up, it kind of changed the animation a little bit, didn't it? So this means that I can adjust the attribute from each individual key instead of just going to the key here and then adjusting the numbers here. I can just adjust it here, up and down. But let's try to make this ball bounce now. Okay. So let's move this guy more to the middle. So I'm just gonna make a Z. Cool. All right, let's make him bounce. So I'm gonna make him start from all the way. Oh, actually, sorry, forgot. I'm on keyframe 14. Let's delete this keyframe. So I'm gonna shift, select here, right click, delete. Okay, now let's go back to the first keyframe. As you can see, our graph editor. I'm on the first keyframe as well. All my attributes keys right now are keyed right now. So now I'm gonna move the ball all the way up here. He's gonna be bouncing from the top to the bottom and then stop. So just gonna make it something crude, something basic, just to get the idea across. All right, so let's make him go to frame 10. Let's see how slow that is. So I'm afraid 10. Then I move the ball towards the bottom, touching the graph, just in case or the grid, just in case I overshoot it a little bit. You can just once you're reaching another keyframe where the ball is hitting the ground, you can just copy this number and then paste it in again once you go to it again. So let's see how fast that is. I'm gonna play it. I can adjust that over here. So what I can do here is that I can shift select this, so now it's in red, and I can move the arrows in the middle and move it to the right. So now when I look at back here, I'm on frame 13. Let's move it a little bit to, let's make it frame 15. Let's see if that's better. Nah, frame 12 is fine. All right, so let's see the graph. Right now, it looks like it's slowing down or fading out into the next frame, which I don't want. I want the ball to like sharply bounce to the ground, but we'll worry about that later. Right now, we just need to get the main poses done. Okay, so frame 1, frame 12. So now I want to go to maybe frame 20. Make it all the way up here. Just make sure. Oh yeah, that's probably too short. There we go. Let's make it frame 30 so this should hit the ground. Remember, again, I can just copy the attribute here and translate Y, and then go to the next frame. Control V, enter. Now it's touching the ground once more. You know what? I'll just put this one. There we go. That's probably better. I can close the attribute or the outliner. Okay, so let's play it right now. How's it look? All right, so a bit shorter. Let's go to. Actually, I'm gonna adjust this to maybe 33 because technically. No, wait. That's fine. Keep it at 30. Now let's go to maybe 38. 2 frames a bit lower than 10. Just the height. Oh yeah, by the way, to zoom out and zoom in on the graph editor is the same thing as the viewport. You can use scroll wheel, zoom in and out, move around, and by clicking Alt middle mouse once again, and then you can marquee select the frames you want to move up and down. By holding Shift up and down, you can put them up and down. You can adjust these arms as well. Okay, so let's go back to this. Bounce, bounce. Oop. So it needs to fall to the ground again. Let's make it maybe 46. I still have that attribute saved, so I'm just gonna Control V. Bounce. Is that a good height? Yeah, it's about like half the height. Okay, another frame. All right, let's see this right now. Okay, I can probably add one more just to that. Boing. It's little. Okay, cool. So now if I look back at it. Alright, now you got somewhat of a bouncing ball there. Make sure you Control S and save, just in case you mess up somewhere. Let's go back to the graph editor, because we're gonna need to edit this really quick. So gonna make another window here. So what the problem is that we're seeing right now is that there's Bezier curves on the when the ball is touching the ground. We don't want that. So what I'm gonna do is that the curves when the ball is touching the ground, which is always going to be the bottom here, I'm going to shift select them. And I'm going to make them a sharp tangent. I'm going to break the tangent first, which you'll be able to do by yeah, here it is. Break tangents. And by clicking on this button, linear tangents, I think that should be it, right? Yeah, there we go. So let's do it again. So select all the keys where the ball touches the ground, break tangents, and then linear tangents. And then right here, you're going to adjust each of these frames enough so that the curve, ooh. Oh, there's a problem here. Okay, so for this frame specifically, I'm going to break the tangent again. And not linear, but I'm just going to adjust it just so that it's straight forwards. This graph, or this key, I'm going to adjust the graph enough so that you can see, so that you don't see a hill here. So I'm just gonna adjust that a little bit. This one as well. I'm gonna do that for each one of them. Also, you might be starting to see too is that some of these keys are actually a bit uneven. That's okay. You can just shift, drag these keys just so that they're a bit even. If that doesn't work, then maybe it has something to do with these keys. I'm just gonna select it, add to the graph just so that there's no flat curve. And even for these tiny hills, you need to edit them. Otherwise, it's going to look janky. I can probably just move this a little bit up. I need more space, though. So I'm just going to select these. Move it to the right. There we go. this one as well. Once this is done, you're going to see a massive difference. These probably don't need to worry about them too much. We just add a little bit. Control S. Now let's look back at our animation. There we go. You got a bouncy ball. If you follow these directions correctly, then your ball should look pretty similar to mine. Sharp bounce, descending towards the ground. But as you can see, the main difference between animating in Maya and animating in pencil and paper, all of these frames here, you didn't animate them. Maya did. Maya created those frames automatically for you. The only frames you created are these. And Maya determined the rest of them using math and graphs. That's the cool thing about animating in this program. However, as I mentioned before at the beginning of the crash course, Maya doesn't know exactly what you want to do. So your job as a 3D artist or animator is to tell Maya what you want. And that's where later on, if you start teaching yourself more about animating in Maya and pretty much any other 3D program, you'll start to realize the ins and outs about doing that kind of skill in those programs. But for now, if you manage to get a bouncing ball, then you're already pretty far ahead when it comes to working in Maya, especially in animating. We can add on to this actually. I got an idea. We are going to add squash and stretch. So if I look at the graph editor right now, the only attribute that has keys right now is translate Y, which translate Y means that the ball is just going up and down. That's all we're seeing right now. We're going to add scale this time. Now, with scale, it's probably going to end up being... I'm guessing probably scale Y. But in order to do so, this isn't going to cut it. We're going to need to move the pivot. So, another skill when it comes to moving the pivot. So, press D. And we are going to move the pivot to the bottom of the ball, which is this pole right here. So I'm just going to I'm just going to navigate myself around here, where you can see a little red dot. Left click, and press W. Now the pivot's on the bottom. But now, wait, what's going on? If I look at the pivot and the world axis, they're off. What gives? Well, it's because as soon as you change the pivot, you also changed its orientation. In order to move it back, what you can do is hold I think it's... Sorry, there we go. Yeah, so what you're going to do is hold W, left click, and then drag to where it says world. So now your pivot is pointing towards the same orientation as the world axis. Same goes for all your other tools. So like the scale tool, you can move it to world. Rotate tool, also the world. So now we can stretch the ball just from the bottom, which means that stretching it from the bottom will not change up our animation or keys that we've already created here. Okay, but let's get started here. Okay, so let's see. What I'm gonna do is that I'm going to create a key for the scale, which I already did because I already pressed S. Now I'm going to go to the key right before it hits the ground, which is 10. And I'm gonna make it stretched up a little bit. Then when it hits at 11, I'm going to make it squished. However, when it comes to balls like this, realistically, the ball not only does it go down, but it also spreads around too. So that's where these squares comes in. So, if we look at the animation right now, oh, what gives? Weird. That should have done it. Okay, I might have went wrong somewhere. Let's retrace somewhere. Retrace steps. So okay, the ball's normal again. So now I'm going to move him up, and it's gonna. There we go. I don't know why it wasn't creating a frame right now. So now I created a frame for a scale. Now if I go to the next frame, I'm going to squish him down, and I'm going to spread him out just a little bit. Not too much though. Okay. Now I'm going to edit a squish again. Whoops. Change it back to 1 on the X and Z. And I'm going to stretch him out. And once it reaches the apex, which is the highest point that the ball reaches in the sky, change back to 1. Something's wrong. Is my pivot right? Well, let's see how it looks like when it's animated. Okay, it might look better once we get it done animating. Yeah, that's the weird part about animating. Like right now, it might look weird and janky, but once it's fully animated, it might look better. Okay, so once it's reached the apex, it's gonna start stretching more like this. Okay, hits the ground, squish. This time it's not gonna squish as much though because there's not enough force being applied to it. So if I compare that to the other frame here, maybe just okay. Edit the scale for X and Z again, and I'm going to make them stretched just a little bit less this time. Okay. Once it reaches the apex once more, which is on frame 38, gonna change it back to 1. Okay. I'm gonna do it again, just for these. However, instead of manually doing it, let's try this. So this is the graph that that's being created for the skill attributes. But as you can see, I am always like changing each of these attributes a frame before, a frame on, and a frame after the ball hits the ground. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select each one of these, Control C to copy, or Command C on Mac. Go find the next frame that he's about to fall, and then paste it. Now it should run the same way as it did here. which technically I don't want, because I want to make him a bit shorter this time. It's weird. Selecting it. Okay, that's okay. If it's not selecting here, then I could just oops. I'll just edit here. All right, let's see if that worked. Okay. All right, now that the ball is bouncing a bit shorter this time, it's not gonna take us as much squash and stretch to emphasize it. So now I'm just gonna add a little bit squash, maybe a little bit here. Ah, it's doing it again. Huh. Let's see. After that, that's 1. Stretch this up a little bit. Oh, that's weird. Okay, so for some reason my key isn't being created here. Okay, now it is. Weird. Okay, so the key is created here. So if I put like 0.8, yes, it is being squished. But here I want it to be maybe 1.2. Or maybe 1.1, not too much. Yeah, if you guys are seeing this same error code right now, this is the first time I've encountered this, where the sequence, I think space scale baked onto components. Yeah, I have no. I'm not too familiar with that error actually, but it seems like it's still adding keyframes by just manually editing the attribute editor here. So that's just what I'm gonna do here. So touch the ball. Weird. Okay. Maybe 0.7. 0.05. That's too much. Oh, what? Oh, jeez. Yeah, now that is strange. It seems like I edited the entire ball completely. I think I know what's going on. So let's try and delete this history. Okay, so sometimes when you've already made so many changes onto an object when you're modeling or you're animating, um, you're gonna want to have to delete its history, which essentially will clean out the object's past history, uh, and hopefully it'll like fix up any errors that you might be encountering. So in this case, the ball, I have it up here. There's a button here. Delete by type history. So now if I like, still giving me the error. Weird, but that's still a good action to know of in the future, especially when you're modeling here. So I'm just going to. At least the squash is somewhat working to how I want it to be right now for the demo. For the top though, it's kind of weird how if I view from the top. Oh, I guess that's just a view. Okay, so now let's just play the animation from here then. We can just keep going further into this, refining the animation, but for what it's worth, like, you've got a bouncing ball already. Squash and Switch is like a bit janky right now. It could be just due to the placement of the pivot, maybe. Maybe I should have done it probably like from the top. But just to make things easier, it was probably best to just do it from the bottom. But hey, we've got a bouncing ball now. And I think I'm just gonna end off the crash course from here. If you guys want to learn more about like rendering something in Autodesk Maya, I can list some tutorial videos that you guys can watch on our Discord channel here. But just to end things off, thanks for coming, everyone who stopped by, and anyone who's watching this in the future, feel free to reach out to me. My name's Seaverse on our Discord server, and I'm also Seaverse on like all the other social media, so like Instagram and our station as well. So yeah, hopefully by now you should have like a good enough grasp to actually keep learning more about running in Maya. Maya's like a pretty big program in the industry, so like it's always good to have something like Maya, something like Maya in your tool set when it comes to artwork. Doesn't matter if it's like if you're in graphic design or even just learning this as a hobby, because you never know what you might end up doing this using this in the future, either for animation or simulations or compositing, something like that. But yeah, this ends off my introduction crash course. So thanks for watching, everyone, and stay tuned for our future events. We have an upcoming one for Blender, starring Majid, or one of our officers. He'll be teaching guys about Blender procedural shaders, and yeah, you guys should look forward to that. That's gonna be another interesting introductory course for Blender. So that should be all. So yeah, thanks for coming, everyone, and I'll see you guys